Hello again, and welcome to another video. This is Base Jellarian, and we are filming more collection stuff, because I know I just filmed a manga collection, but the general consensus of those videos were that they were really boring, because I had to get through like a bunch of manga as fast as I could, so I couldn't really talk much about the manga that I own. So I figured I would make a series of videos detailing my collection so that I may go through them and talk about them and my feelings about them and stuff like that, and make a little more of an interesting video for people to watch. And I am going to be doing them in chunks based off of Bookshelf, and before that I'm actually going to be working on the Overflow, which are the books set in front of books. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of videos, so just to be prepared for that. But we are just going to start up real frickin' quick here with the first part of my Overflow. And we're going to start with A Girl on the Shore by Inio Asano. And that is easily probably one of the most polarizing manga I have in my collection, because you have people who either loved this or they hated it because of the content, and the content happens to be a lot of really graphic sexual content between two underage characters. And I can totally 100% understand that this is definitely not the Inio Asano title for everyone, and I'd only suggest it to people if you're just a hardcore Inio Asano fan and you just want to collect Inio Asano stuff. Because there are even points in this anime, and not this anime, this is not an anime, this is a manga. And there are parts in this manga that even unsettled me. There is a large section, like in the middle, where the two main characters, who are middle school age, have multiple times have like really graphic sex in like in the same like series of scenes. And I just keep having to, like, skip over that part really fast, because there's just some gross stuff. And it's definitely not everybody's cup of tea, and for the most part, it's also not mine, but I'm also, like I said, a really hardcore Inio Asano fan. So, despite the fact that a lot of parts in this manga make me hugely uncomfortable, I just like this guy's work, so what can I do? Next up we have Angel Dust, which is a single volume, just like A Girl on the Shore. This one was really short and really fast-paced, and it was kind of wild. I don't know if this was an adaptation from a novel or from an anime. I did no research because this was an impulse buy I found randomly at 2nd and Charles. But the way that ADV published it made it just seem that it was just an original creation by this author, Aoi Nanase. So, I don't know what the story behind Angel Dust was, or why a lot of story and a lot of character development had to happen in a single volume. Maybe it just got cancelled, or it was like on the edge of cancellation constantly. But I don't know what the story is with Angel Dust, because it is fast-paced, and it is to the series' detriment. Next up we have Angelic Layer, Omnibuses 1 and 2, from Dark Horse. Dark Horse rescued a lot, if not all, of the series that were done by Clamp from Tokyopop, after Tokyopop kind of lost all of its licenses, save for the original English language ones, which Tokyopop still has the licensing rights to almost all, if not all, of their original English language manga that they published. So, fun fact. But anyway, Dark Horse jumped on the Clamp ship as soon as there was a chance, because they have published, I don't know if but at least all of the major series that Tokyopop had published from Clamp. So Angelic Layer is one of them. Next we have Anti-Magic Academy, the 35th Test Platoon, complete missions. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this, because I have a feeling it's going to have crazy Asterisk War, Sword Art Online vibes. And if you've seen any of those series and didn't like them, you'll know what I'm talking about, where it's all like one guy and he's kind of like mundane, but he's got like one incredibly like OP power that makes him like super cool, and you have this like kick-ass girl who you'd kind of want to see in like her own series, but she's upstaged by the dude and she winds up falling in love with him because that's how these things work. It's very light novel-y kind of thing, and I don't know why I bought it. I think I was in Barnes & Noble, and I was all like, I have money, I'm gonna throw my money at this, and so I did, because, like, I'm a fucking idiot. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, I haven't read it yet. I really hope that I will, because I don't like the feeling that I wasted my money. Next we have Arakawa, Under the Bridge. My cat is making some chaos behind me. Omnibuses 1 and 2 that have, 2 volumes each inside of them. This series was actually introduced to me by my husband, who was a huge fan before I even knew what Arakawa Under the Bridge was. He's read the manga, he's seen the anime and the live action. And so when I saw that they were going to be publishing Arakawa Under the Bridge manga in English, I definitely had to tell him, and we definitely had to pick it up. And I'm really enjoying this. It's a crazy screwball comedy about all these wild people who live under a bridge, and they're all homeless and they live under this bridge. And they're not just, your everyday, like, garden variety homeless people. You got a dude who, like, is, like, pretending to be a kappa. You got, like, this nun who is this, like, big buff dude who's probably been to war and has all these guns, but he's also a nun and he runs a church under this bridge, and it's just insane constantly, and it is a laugh and a half from start to finish, and I definitely recommend it if you like those kinds of just crazy over the top comedies with a lot of more really unique cast of characters, I guess I could say. Next we have Assassin's Creed Awakening, Volumes 1 and 2, which is complete. This is okay. It was fine. The ending felt a little rushed, but in the end it's okay. I recommend it for people who like the Assassin's Creed series and just want more Assassin's Creed merch. But an interesting thing about this manga is that it is done, at least the art is done by the person who did the art for Welcome to the NHK, which is really cool, and if you liked his art in that, I definitely suggest looking into this because it's drawn by the same guy. Next we have Azumanga Daioh, volume, which is the omnibus put out by Yen Press. I've already talked about how I used to own the original ADV releases, but then I switched them out for this because I liked the quality of the translation and stuff more. But Azumanga Daioh was integral to me when I was a young little nerd. I met this girl in high school, or late middle school and into high school, and she introduced so much nerd stuff to me. This is the girl who introduced me to yaoi. She was my gateway to the mecca that is yaoi. But she also introduced me to Azumanga Daioh, which became this really big deal between me and all of my friends. We all read the manga and we all saw the anime. I also have the original box set from ADV too, so I have the anime too. And it was just a really important series to me and my friends, and we loved it. We actually assigned nicknames to each other based off of who we related to in the manga. I was a fucking space case idiot, so of course everybody called me Osaka. We had a friend who, she was the smallest friend that we had, and she was just itty bitty little tiny, and so we called her Chio, and then we had a friend who was super high energy, and we called her Tomo, and it's just a very nostalgic series for me, and just a really big part of my life when I was a teenager. So yeah, Azumanga. There's that. Next we have Battle Royale Ultimate Editions, Volumes 1 and 2. I don't have the other ones, and I don't think I'm planning on it. Volume 3 is easy to get, but Volumes 4 and 5, you gotta work some special magic to get those. But something I always mention when I go past these is that one of Shinichi's old dogs, Taro, who was this really fat yellow lab who ate everything that you ever left on the ground, ate the inside of one of these volumes, and it happened to be volume 1. Let me see if I can open to it. Sorry everybody, the quality of the video has gone down significantly. Here we go. So this is the section that was eaten. You can tell there are multiple pages that have gotten torn and eaten by this dog. And the reason why we haven't, like, thrown it away or, like, traded up for a volume that hasn't been eaten from the inside is because despite the fact that the dog was a terror and he ate anything, even things that weren't even food, he was actually a really dear dog to Shinichi's family. So when he passed, it was just a really big deal when he passed. It was really emotional. And I think we keep Volume 1 around as a memento, because as much as the dog did a lot of, like, crazy, awful stuff, he was a very loved dog, and that's probably why we keep ruined Volume 1 around. Next up we have Bunny Drop, Volumes 1 through 5, a new pickup of mine, and a series that I'm planning on collecting in this year. I have, like, the volumes that everybody says you at least need to get for Bunny Drop. And then I'm starting to move into the part where everybody says is optional because it's seedy. Because things happen between, like, the main little girl who's, like, a teenager at this point and her foster dad. And you can tell where that's going. Next up we have Cardcaptor Sakura, books 1 and 2 up here. And books 3 and 4 down here, which is complete of the original Cardcaptor Sakura. And then we have Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card, Volumes 1 and 2. Yeah, Cardcaptor Sakura was a series that I always wanted to collect as a youngin', but the way that Tokyopop published it was really confusing, and I didn't have a lot of, like, know-how or insight to figure out what they were doing, because they published Cardcaptor Sakura originally in these tiny, tiny little flipped books, which they did for a lot of shoujo manga back in the day. Like, I know they did that to Sailor Moon, too, and a couple of others. And then they republished Cardcaptor Sakura in, like, their regular format, but they split the series up, I think, into 2 series. They published the original series where that's her name, where Sakura is collecting the cards and just mastering the cards, and they published the second part where she's just tested even further in a separate series, and I never figured out, I never had, like, the wherewithal to figure that out, so I never actually collected Cardcaptor Sakura back when it was getting published by Tokyopop. So yeah, I have the Dark Horse versions instead. Next up we have Citrus, Volumes 1 through 7, probably one of my favorite Yuri of all time, even though it's probably one of the more polarizing Yuri that are currently being published recently, because the 2 girls in it who are romancing are stepsisters, and it's that thing that is a very, like, tropey thing in anime and manga where it's got kind of, like, the taboo feeling of incest, but we're not actually related, we're stepsisters, or we're stepbrother and sister, so this isn't actually wrong. So yeah, that's what Citrus is. It's kind of, like, hard to admit that's what Citrus is, but that's what Citrus is. Sorry, let me just adjust the way I'm standing because it's really uncomfortable. Then we have Concrete Revolutio, the complete saga. This might be the last time you're seeing Concrete Revolutio in my collection because I finished it recently and it was really boring. I don't know if it's the same for the anime. The anime might be better, but as far as I'm concerned, the manga for Concrete Revolution was meh. It was very meh. Just meh. Next up, we have Daigo the Beast Volume 1. This is a really thick volume. Like, Concrete Revolution is right next to it, and it's a 2-in-1. And Daigo, as far as I'm aware, is just one volume, and it is really, really thick. My cat is fucking with something. I don't know where she is, but she's doing something. But back to what I was talking about. This was bought for my husband because he really, really wanted it. So I decided to get it for him because a lot of things that I buy in this collection are for me, and I'm not usually buying stuff with him in mind. So when he ever asks me, I really want this manga, can you get it for me? I usually do because I love him. Next we have the Death Note all-in-one edition. I do have the Death Note single volumes elsewhere, but I also wanted to get the all-in-one edition because it was just a novel concept of having 12 volumes stuffed into one book. More recently, a lot of people's opinions of this edition have cooled, so I don't feel like I need to make the omnibus rant again. But yeah, I'm really glad that whenever somebody mentions the all-in-one edition, they're usually either neutral about it or they're positive about it because it's really cool and it's neat and it's a really cheap way to get into Death Note because it's all of Death Note for like $30. So yeah, I'm really glad that I don't have to keep on getting angry whenever we bring up Death Note all-in-one edition. So yeah, there's the thing. Next up we have Doubt, Volumes 1 and 2, which is complete. I read this long before it was actually published by Yen Press on scans, and I loved it. I loved Doubt. So when I found out that Doubt was getting an actual English release, I was hype as hell. I know a lot of people have kind of cool feelings about Doubt, because a lot of people I've seen talk about how the big reveal, the mystery, they found out immediately, they were able to deduce what was going on instantly. But I just remember reading it and maybe it's because I'm a simple dummy, but I fucking loved the twist in Doubt, just the whole mystery, the whodunit. I might pick up the other series by this artist. I have not yet, even though I loved Doubt, and I should have started picking up the other series. I have not, but maybe sometime in the future I will give those series a try. We'll just have to see. Next up we have Fire Punch Volume 1, a series that I have made my opinions known about, and some people did not like that. Some people have gotten angry at me because I said I didn't like Fire Punch. Some people have called my intelligence into question because I do not like Fire Punch. They've also said I wasn't manly enough to actually appreciate the series, but I don't feel like that's something that I should feel personally offended by. But I just don't like Fire Punch, you guys. I don't. I am going to give it one more shot. I am going to collect Volume 2, but if Volume 2 rubs me the wrong way, like Volume 1 did, I am unhauling it. I am getting rid of it, and I don't care what you say. I don't care if my taste in manga makes me a fool. I do not like Fire Punch, Volume 1. I did not like it. Still don't like it. You can call me whatever names you want to call me, but I did not like Fire Punch. At all. Now I'm going to move on from that, and I'm going to talk about Flowers of Evil Complete Edition, Volumes 1 and 2. These are 3-in-1s put out by Vertical, and I'm really glad that they are putting these out because the original single editions were starting to go out of print, and a lot of them are hard to get, and I really wanted to read the series, but it was almost impossible for me, person who does not actively seek out really expensive out-of-print stuff. Some people might have wanted just a reprint of the single editions, but I love omnibuses, could not care less. I like big old thick books. I don't know what it is, I just like them. But yeah, that's complete edition, volumes 1 and 2 of Flowers of Evil. Next we have Frau Faust, volumes 1 through 3. This is going to be a 5-volume series, so we're almost done. Volume 4, I think, is coming out really, really soon, like on Tuesday or something. But it's by the same person who did The Ancient Magus' Bride, and if you liked that series, definitely get on Frau Faust, because it kind of feels similar. And it's kind of like, it's got that same, like, fantasy kind of vibe that is present in The Ancient Magus' Bride. So definitely look into that if you have not already. Next we have Full Metal Panic, volumes 1 and 2. And down here we have volume 3, missing volume 4. And then we have 5 through 9, which is complete, aside from volume 4, which I do not have. But, this is a series that I used to read over at an old friend's house, and back when I was in middle school, and she didn't have the full series, and she never collected the full series while we were friends, so I never figured out what happened in Full Metal Panic, so I figured I'd give little 12-year-old me closure and buy Full Metal Panic, and just see how I feel about the series now that I am an adult. Next we have Galaxy Girl Panda Boy, which is from a Tokyopop imprint that I only recently figured out existed, called Passion Fruit. I originally thought it was going to be a very graphic, like, sexual series, but it turns out to be a series of coming-of-age stories of teens and tweens. Sometimes there's like sexual content, but it's never like the forerunner. And they're really interesting, just short stories, and yeah. I don't know if I could give it a full recommendation, but if you like short stories that are just coming of age, kind of like artsy in a way stories, I definitely suggest picking up Galaxy Girl Panda Boy and the other volume, a part of the Passion Fruit imprint, which was called Sweet and Honey. I don't know if there are others, but I know those two exist because I own them. Next we have Gangsta, volumes 1 through 5. I'm 2 volumes away from catching up to the current release. I heard that Gangsta had come off of hiatus, but I haven't heard anything about it since then. But I really hope that it continues, because I was interested in Gangsta from like the moment I heard about it, but I never collected it until now, and it would be a real shame, since the anime did so poorly, that the manga would just kind of cease to exist too, because it's a good series. I've liked it so far. So far, what I've read is really good, and I really hope that the artist, I don't know if she was sick or whatnot, but I hope she recovers from whatever is ailing her and keeping her from continuing the series, and that she can continue on with Gangsta. Next up we have Giant Spider and Me, a Post-Apocalyptic Tale, Volume 1. This is a new release from Seven Seas, and I really liked it, because it's about this girl and this giant... Oh no! It's about this girl and this giant spider living together, and it's like after some really catastrophic event must have happened, because every once in a while you see like scenery, like you see like a city that's like partially submerged underwater, and we still don't know like how this happened, but it's just post-apocalyptic tale, obviously by the title, and it's about this cute girl and this giant spider living together and cooking delicious food, and other stuff have happened, but that's like the predominant theme, and that's just really unique and just fun, and I love it. Next we have Goldfish, Volume 1. There's not much I can say about it, because I still want to make a video about it. I still really do, you guys. But, I do suggest you look into it, because it has a high recommendation from me. At the very least, I suggest looking into it, seeing if you like it, because it's a fun romp. It's a fun little adventure series, and it's unique, and it's cool. And it's German. It's German. Next we have Gunslinger Girl, volumes 1 through 15, which is complete in the omnibuses put out by 7 Seas. Now, a fun little story that I like to tell about this is, when I picked it up, I picked it up because I realized that a lot of the volumes were going for, big money. So I picked it up as soon as I found it, and I posted to Tumblr, which was a big mistake, that I had found Gunslinger Girl. And I got a comment that I hate to say it like this because I too am on Tumblr a lot, but it was a very Tumblr thing for someone to have said. And somebody commented, because I was talking about how I found the series so cheap, and they were all like, oh wow, kitty porn sure is going for cheap these days. And that just rubbed me the wrong way, because Gunslinger Girl is hardly even titillating. Obviously, I'm not the audience who would get titillated by anything that is, sexually explicit involving young girls this age, but I didn't think it was bad at all. I don't, there's one scene that I remember that was, it showed, someone's boobs, but that was it, really. It just kind of left, it kind of pissed me off, because somebody was all like, oh, you collected kitty porn, you pervert. Gunslinger Girl is hardly a porn. It's hardly anything close to that. It just bothered me that somebody was all, calling me out for collecting kitty porn when Gunslinger Girl is not kitty porn. I mean, there are, I know, it does have, questionable, relationships. There's definitely age gap relationships, but they're not sexually explicit. There's hardly, 0.5, sexually explicit things in Gunslinger Girl. It's just, there's, out of all the things to call out, it was so bizarre to me, because there are worse manga out there starring girls this age, and it was just, leave me alone. Next up we have Gurren Lagann, volumes 1 through 5. I don't have volume 6, and it's just a real tragedy that this never got to see completion before Bandai decided to die, because Gurren Lagann is a really iconic series. Even if you're, barely fringe into anime and manga, you know that Gurren Lagann left a very, very deep mark in the anime and manga industry, and it still continues to be some people's favorite anime and manga. And it's just really tragic that we're only going to get a portion of the series over here in the West, which is very sad. But at least we have the anime, which I guess is superior to manga, only because it's, moving pictures and stuff. Meh. And then finally on this shelf we have I Am a Hero Omnibus Volume 1. I have volumes 2 through 5 on the other shelf. But just to say that it is a really, really good zombie manga, and I definitely suggest picking it up if you like that zombie feel. But just know that Dark Horse, the release schedule for I Am a Hero is absolute bogus, and that's just a warning, and you'll be waiting around for a while. But even with the weird, awful Dark Horse release schedule trademark, it's still a really great series, and I can't help but recommend it, because it's got these really quirky characters, and it's just got elements in it that you haven't really found in any other zombie manga. It's just really, really great, and yeah, it's just a good series. And that was the first portion of the in-depth manga collection tour. This is just the first part of my overflow. We haven't gotten to the second part of my overflow. We haven't gotten to all of this, but we will. And you'll be seeing it one day, maybe soon. Yes, indeed. So yes, until then, goodbye.